Hi, it's Dr. Noel Wagner at the Saginaw-Tuscola Medical Control Authority. Today I want to talk about using the radio to contact me, a subject that's near and dear to my heart. So the number one caveat before we go into all of this is I still want to be contacted for medical control issues in our MCA. There's a reason that we have it set up that way. There's a reason I make myself available 24 hours a day, is I want to keep our decisions in-house with an EMS physician. And I think that this gives us the consistency and the right insight that we need to make those decisions. So I do want to be contacted. Now, having said that, there's a way to contact me that's going to work much better for everybody involved. So real quick first, before we get going, just a quick primer. Remember that 73 MD is not the same as 73 Med 1. 73 MD. So look at your radio when you have it the next time and make sure that you're on the right channel. Now, we've said this before, and it gets lost in the passage of time a little bit. The best way to contact me is by radio. I want you to use the radio. I want you to use 73 MD. There's a reason it's set up as a statewide channel. There is not a place in our MCA that 73 MD will not work out of the mobile radio in your truck. It will work everywhere. The reason I'm asking you to do this is you've got to remember, on my end, these are different than a normal phone call. A normal phone call you can look at, you can decide if you're going to answer this or not. You can call the other person back in a little bit. You don't have the same time crunch to try and get to that I feel whenever I have somebody calling on one of ours. So it's not just a phone call. It's something that's a little bit different. And there's a couple scenarios, and I'm going to go through these real quick while you understand why this helps to use the radio. One is when I'm driving. I don't want to answer the phone when I'm driving, yet I need to answer you in a timely fashion. It's legal for public safety to use a cell phone while driving, but that doesn't mean I want to do that. It doesn't mean it's a good idea. The other day in the rainy, half snow, half drizzle, I got a phone call when it would have been very easy for me to pick up the radio and talk. And then while I'm driving in the cold, rainy drizzle, I got a second medical control phone call that went into call waiting. All the while that my phone is not syncing up properly with the hands free in the car, and it was a mess, and I was not a nice person on that, okay? It would have been very easy to use the radio. The second person calling then would have heard radio traffic and they would have waited. It would have been a much better transition, much safer, keeps me from fumbling around, lets me continue to go do what I'm doing. If I'm going to a call, if I'm going to do something, I can still do that. The radio works much better. Nighttime, much easier to wake up and talk on the radio at night. The back and forth, the one and then the other, just works really well. It makes people's reports better. It just works good with the thought process. So nighttime is much easier. That's why we have a single channel. I have it turned all the way up. Like to be woke up with the radio. It's easier for me to talk. Meetings, to get called out of a meeting on the radio just isn't as disruptive as it is on a cell phone call. Also, I know that it's a legitimate call and I can ignore phone calls during the meeting because I know that people are going to approach me on the radio to start with. And then just out in the public, you get treated like a pariah if you go to answer your phone, where if you do the exact same thing on the radio, it works better. And the reason that's at the end of the list is because that's where it is. It's at the end of the list. So, but there's just a lot of things that make the radio much better. Now, remember, I give you my cell phone number for a reason. It's meant to be a backup. If you can't reach me on the radio, I'm in a basement or something, then you try the cell phone. If I'm out of town in January, I have my week-long conference of the National Association of EMS Physicians. I will be out of state. Then you will need to use the cell phone, but it's the secondary. And also when I'm at that conference, I don't have the same time constraints and logistic issues that I have, when I'm being the medical director here in our two counties. So you can use it, but it needs to be the backup. And if there is something that needs to be talked on the cell phone, you can either do it directly if it's an unusual circumstance, and you know what I'm talking about, if it's an unusual circumstance, or start on the radio, and then we can always switch to the cell phone, because then I can get situated, and we can go from there. And then the other thing is, if you need to talk to me, shoot me a text during the daytime. Like when I get called out of a meeting for something that's not emergent, it's a little tough, with that. So if you shoot me a text, we can work it out. When is a good time to for me to call you back? It might be right away. I might say call me now. So just keep those things in mind. Now, to circle back to what we talked about originally, um, on the thing, I still want to be contacted. Do not stop contacting me. I just need people to use the radio more often and as their primary contact source. It works so much better on my end. My life is better. I can concentrate better. My workflow is better. It's just the best way. And then if we get to a point where we need to switch over to a cell phone conversation, we can do that. We can use cell phones non-routinely, for things that aren't a time critical medical control call. But we can work those out, with text or something like that to get that set up. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful. Keep calling. It's a strength of our system that we're able to keep everything in-house and deal with it from an EMS perspective, which is a really good thing. So that's all I have for today. Again, Dr. Noel Wagner, Saginaw-Tuscola MCA.